Well, hello and welcome to Monday's edition of Movie News here at MBE. I am joined as ever with John C. Walsh, and John, from the thumbnail and from that headline, it's very easy to see what we're going to be talking about for the next 10 or so minutes.
Yes.
It's obviously the sad passing of Chadwick Boseman,
Yes.
who passed away last Friday. I suppose we'll just get into how we found out, and then we'll talk about a bit of his career. I don't really want to get into what happens next territory. A lot of YouTube channels are doing that, John. I'm not quite ready for that. And I think that's for another day anyway, because we're kind of playing catch up. We decided not to. We don't normally do our channel at the weekend anyway, and we kind of made a decision between both of us. It would have been poor taste anyway. You know, leave it a few days. I woke up on Saturday morning, John, after we did Friday's review. Did what I normally do: pick up my phone, do a little, what do you call it?
News check, yeah.
Yeah, a little news check.
Social
and
media.
a vanity search on Movie Burning Entertainment, like I always do, to see what's happening on our platforms, you know. And opened up my phone. I've got Apple News obviously up right away, and this is the first thing I see: picture of Chadwick Boseman, 1976 to 2020, and. I've got to be honest, John, it took my breath away. Absolutely stunned about this news. Like most people that have been following this man's career over the last decade or so. It's very hard to put into words, and we do this when we're talking about composers that passed away, directors that have passed away. So when we talk about actors passing away as well, it's not any different. It's very hard to sum up in words in regards to someone you don't really know, but you feel that you've known them if you follow the work. It's very hard to describe, isn't it? But I know that you've seen a few more films than I have of Chadwick Boseman. He's always going to be synonymous with the character Black Panther. There's no getting away with that, John. And the inspiration and what this meant to a lot of children all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll get into all that as well. But your initial thoughts when you heard this news, what was your reaction?
Stunned, Stephen. It was actually you, of course, who shared it with me. I was still in my bed. I'd woke up and you messaged me via Messenger. Chadwick Boseman died. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
First thoughts that went through my mind was, this is a joke. It's no chance is this real. Actually, as you said, Stephen, took my breath away as well. I actually felt the breath leaving my lungs. It was like... I couldn't believe it. It was the same sort of thing that I had. I was sitting at my PC, God, what was it, 6-7 months ago when Kobe Bryant died?
Yeah.
And it came up in the notifications, Kobe Bryant has died in a helicopter. And you're like, what the hell's going on here? These guys are icons. They're people, you just think they've got a degree of, I don't know, immortality. Yeah. You don't think in your mind's eye, someone so young, so powerful in terms of their status and also their stardom, that they will ever die. It's a strange concept because they're human like us and everyone dies. But yeah, it really did stun me. It was, took my breath away. An absolute tragedy, Stephen. Yeah. Guy's only 43 years of age, young man. Obviously every family on the planet has been touched with cancer in some way or the other. We've all lost relatives. And it's an incredibly difficult thing. I lost my grandfather a few years ago to cancer, so I know exactly what his family are going through. Horrendous. Although he was in his 80s, this guy's only in the prime of his life. And he was just starting to get a degree of stardom, Stephen, in terms of what he was accomplishing in movies and whatnot. Relatively young career. Reached his fame fairly late in his life, mid-30s, I want to say, last decade. Yeah. So he wasn't an out-and-out established name. He was just starting to come to the fore when he probably got diagnosed with cancer in 2016. Yeah. And I think that's the common thread that I'm seeing throughout all the commentaries on this guy, just the bravery and the respectableness of the guy to continue on filming, doing projects, working his ass off, doing weights, all the rest of it, exercising when he had this battle with colon cancer, doing operations, chemotherapy and whatnot, and continuing to have the fortitude to continue on and do projects and filming movies. Stephen, we've seen it with actors around the round table and whatnot. It is not an easy job. People have this thing in their mind's eye that these people are incredibly well paid. They've got the life of Riley. It's a really easy job. It ain't. They're getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning, 3 in the morning. They're working ridiculous hours, 18 hours a day. It's an uncertain career as well. It's an uncertain career. It's incredibly long hours. It's really taxing physically and mentally. And for this guy to be battling cancer whilst simultaneously doing 12, 18-hour shifts on set, doing weight training, still going and seeing young kids and stuff like that and doing charity work.
Yeah.
I think that speaks volumes for the guy. I mean, I don't know if you've got anything to say before I go off on a complete and utter tangent and go off and speak about what I was going to say, but I just think it's a complete tragedy. It's a sort of double-edged tragedy as well, Stephen, because we're not going to get to see what this guy's going to accomplish in his career later on. I mean, he would have developed into an even greater actor in the next 10, 20, 30 years. I'm absolutely sure of it. You look at what he's done, Get On Up, an amazing movie, big James Brown fan. My mother loves him, she passed that on to me. Love that guy, and for him to get all of the tics and mannerisms, the dance moves, for a 6-foot guy to sort of imbue that was great.
John, I seen this film, but I wasn't really... I would be lying to say that was when the name stuck in my head. It was a great performance. Bit of a fan of James Brown, so I was interested to see that film, and his performance was bang on the money. But I'd be lying to say this is the film that really made me stand up and take notice of Chadwick Boseman. I don't want to put it out there that I've known this guy's career from the very beginning or anything like that.
That's a lot of movies I've not seen.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot, but that was 2014 as well, and I do remember watching. I think maybe it was a year or two after. It might have been on Sky Movies or something like that. Certainly, I didn't see this film. I was well on the ball with it. I'm sure you were, John, because you are a bigger fan of James Brown than myself. But an amazing performance. But it wasn't till obviously 2 years later in Civil War that's when I took notice of him. It was a great introduction for the character as well. A lot of tragedy for the character as well. And Chadwick Boseman, he would have been 40 at the time. It just there's something about his performance that stood out for me in that whole film. When you talk about Civil War and everything that happened in that, with the introduction of Spider-Man, etc., into the MCU, there's something about this character as well, something I've never seen before.
Charisma.
Yeah, just everything. There was a maturity about him as well for such a young age. And coming into that universe, Chadwick Boseman held his own amongst the likes of Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, etc.
Big personalities.
Big characters as well, John. And he just slotted right in there, hit the ground running with that performance.
And such a cool looking character as well, Stephen. And as you say, it's a tragedy of his father in that movie. It took someone of real nuance in terms of performance to bring their A game to that movie, and he did it. And right away we were interested, and then also we got to see Black Panther, a real zeitgeist movie for a whole variety of reasons, for the black community and stuff like that, what it did, empowering that side of things. A big movie in general, really. I mean, it's been touched upon by various other channels, just what that movie's accomplished. It's gave hope to people from minority communities that they too, if they're talented enough and they put their heart and soul into it like this guy did, they can achieve stardom, they can achieve their dream. The
year before Get On Up, John, you saw 42, the Jackie Robinson
absolutely
film.
Amazing
I never
movie.
saw that. I regret it obviously now. I'd never seen that. I knew of it, but would that have been your first hand experience of Chadwick Boseman?
It was, Stephen. And I didn't even know who Chadwick Boseman was at the time. I just watched the movie because I love these sort of historical dramas about famous people.
Yeah.
And obviously the concept of him fighting through the sort of civil rights issue, I think it's a little bit further back than that. But I don't know what you'd say, maybe the racial apartheid of the United States in the 1940s, 50s, I'd presume it was. I'm not a big baseball fan, but I love historical drama movies.
I'm the same. I enjoyed Race.
Yeah,
just the one Jesse Owens, that was a fantastic one as well.
And just the concept scene of this black guy coming up through the baseball leagues, he's so talented, and the shit he had to put up with. And again, it was another amazing performance. It was an enlightening performance, and that's something we've seen with this guy throughout his career, his short career, sadly. Just touching on these historical figures, and he's renewing the sort of interest for new generations, younger generations who have probably not known a James Brown, probably not known, I think it's Marshall as well was the other historical one he done. They've not known Jackie Robinson. He's reignited that in their brains, and he showed them, look, these people struggled, they fought in the face of adversity, but ultimately they succeeded. And it's almost like his life in a microcosm, because this guy fought in the face of adversity, cancer and whatnot, he succeeded. He's now down in the history books as an absolutely amazing actor. He's got so many great performances, even in his short career. And Stephen, we've seen it with John Lennon and stuff like that as well. When people sadly die young, they are sort of kept at that age, time memoriam, it's almost like they're looked upon with great fondness. I mean, people will say Paul McCartney is not viewed in the same light as John Lennon just because of what happened to John Lennon. I feel like it'll be the same here. But look, just like John Lennon, an incredibly talented guy, so was Chadwick Boseman. Stephen, The Five Bloods as well. We recently reviewed it.
Yeah.
That movie's going to take on a whole new light now, going back and watching that. It was a really poignant performance in the first place, seeing this young guy left behind in Vietnam. Obviously, it's flashbacks. He's almost deemed like a Christ-like figure in that movie. The lights on him and stuff like that. Obviously, Storm and Norman. I loved the performance.
We've talked about the performances in the film, and I know that Delroy Linden was the standout performance, but you can understand why. He was predominantly the main character in the film. But we did talk about Chadwick Boseman, Storm and Norman as well. Although his appearance in the film was sporadic and very short, every scene he was in he owned, and he had, again, that maturity as well. He's working with all these older actors, and they made sure, and they decided not to use younger actors for the flashbacks, and I thought it worked really well. And I don't know if I mentioned it in the review at the time, but I thought at the time that's going to be a wee bit jarring, having a young guy like Chadwick Boseman in there with these veteran actors, but it didn't. It was as if he had the same kind of career as him, as that, in times of time served. Just because of his maturity, and
the way Spike Lee handled it as well, Steve. With obviously the Delroy Linden character, sort of, he was almost like a dream haunting him, or a figure haunting him, because he was cut up about what he'd obviously done to his friend, leaving him, accidentally killing him. So that quote as well, I mean, you're right, he was in it in flourishes, but when he was in it, he really caught the eye. And again, that comes down to the talent of the man, the charisma of the man. Just that quote, that big long quote about being ripped off and stuff like that. Who feels like we're ripping them off? We've been dying for this country since, I think it was Crispus Attucks or something, I can't recall the name exactly. But it was a great quote. And again, he's in and out of the movie, but it shows you the respect that Spike Lee had for this guy. He knew he possessed it. He could fleet in and out of the movie and still give a great performance. But Stephen, that aside as well, just what they've lost, people in general, the black community and specifically though, they've lost a real towering figure, a guy of eloquence, intelligence, charisma, everything really. They had the whole package. Really great speaker. And I've seen so many interviews with this guy, and it's always ripped out of him, the intelligence, the way he speaks. He's really passionate about social justice and empowering people from minority communities and stuff like that. And when you lose that voice, that's another thing. That's why it says double-edged. Not only have you lost his career, what could have been, but you've also lost that side of things where he's a real powerful, potent sort of voice on social media. So he's going to be badly, badly missed, man. Really badly missed. And I don't know where the hell Marvel are going next, but that's a question for another day. Because he is such a towering figure already. I mean, we were speaking about Phase 4, Stephen, and I had visions of Tom Holland's Peter Parker and Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther, T'Challa, being the sort of duology that we're leading us into this Phase 4. So, it's an absolute tragedy. I can't imagine what his family are going through, even though I have had that with cancer. Everyone has, really. For it to be so young and so sudden. Well, for us, it's sudden. For them, also, they were aware. And that's, Stephen, probably the final thing I would say. The fact that it came out of nowhere for fans of the man who weren't perhaps aware of the fact he was suffering from stage 3, stage 4 cancer, for it to be so sudden. That's why it took everyone by surprise when I read it. I thought he'd been killed in an accident or something, Stephen. I didn't realise that. I was really shocked when I realised.
My message was very short and sweet, John, but it's only because I couldn't believe it. But it's the measure of the man as well. In this day and age where people live their lives on social media, that he kept his private life private, and you've got to respect him for that. But John, we're going to move on anyway. We'll talk about, obviously, more of his legacy, I suppose, as we start to find out what will happen, obviously, in the MCU with that character, and some of his more upcoming films as well. I know that he had a few in the can that have been completed. I think Ma Rainey's Black Bottom was the last one that he completed. There is one that was in pre-production, Yuzuki, I think it was called.
That was a martial artist thing.
But whether or not, I don't know what's happened with production of that now. But I'm sure as the weeks go on, we'll get more details on, obviously, the Marvel stuff and all that. It's kind of, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that important. But going to miss the guy, loved his films, and sadly we'll just have to wonder what could have been with that fantastic actor, Chadwick Boseman. But we'll move on, John, to another topic now, and it's coming in from Screen Rant. Fox hated New Mutants so much they considered reshooting the whole movie. Now, this came out, John. We've already talked about the first review it came in. It was very generic. And according to a Vulture expose, the behind-the-scenes drama on the New Mutants was far worse than had been previously suspected. The wide-ranging investigation cites anonymous sources who worked at Fox at the time, who reveal that the first cut of the film that was delivered was so bad that the executives considered starting over and reshooting an entire movie. The sources quoted an unnamed senior exec at Fox who reportedly said you could throw the movie out, start over, and it would still be the least expensive X-Men movie so far. It's a stunning revelation that illustrates just why the New Mutants was delayed by over a year initially and then eventually by over 2 years. While audiences will never know for sure just what the first cut looked like, it's clear that after seeing it, Fox and or Disney doubled down and dialed back its more unique horror elements, preferring to release a more standard superhero movie instead. The biggest evidence of this can be seen by comparing the vast differences in tone between the first teaser and the final trailers released recently. Now, before I hand it over to you, John, it's concerning that you've got executives at a studio who thought the first cut was that bad that they would go and redo a film. And how bad was it? We'll never know. But what came out in the final product is being accused of being generic and boring and predictable, etc., etc. So, is it a case of just really, how can you put it, putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound? Is it really just, let's just tidy this up as best we can and just put it out? Or do you think it would have been a good idea to go back? I know we're kind of surmising here because we don't know how bad this film was, but initially this film was going to be not an out-and-out horror, but it had horror aspects to it, as we saw from that first trailer. It looked really good in that trailer as well. You can't judge a film on its trailer, I know that, but the tone of the film certainly did change. This article is correct. Those final trailers that we got just a few months ago were certainly a different film than what we saw in that first trailer.
Well, Stephen, obviously, they came out, Josh Boone, and says that the movie hadn't been finished in a sense because the Disney merger, when that happened, they had to shut down everything. Post-production ground to a halt. There was no work being done on the movie, so it was behind. So when we got that initial trailer, that was probably when it was still a Fox property. Then when it went over to Disney, they stopped for a long, long time. And then obviously that allowed them to have some breathing room, but obviously it didn't actually get the movie finished for quite a long time. I presume it was at least a year. He was off, not doing much to the movie. The pros get done, and he was out recently saying that this movie wasn't allowed any reshoots. They weren't allowed to go in and change some things. So it was essentially the exact same cut that he'd put together at the very beginning. So this concerns me, Stephen, slightly. I can't lie that we've got sources coming out and saying they wanted to throw the whole movie out, start over, and if they had done that, it would still be the least expensive X-Men movie ever made, because that tells me that the first draft of this movie was absolute dog shit, and they've not actually had a chance to change the first draft of the movie, so it's still dog shit in the eyes of Fox. And that's something that I spoke about, Stephen, previously, about this movie being the canary going down the mine for Disney, that they don't really care about the Fox properties. They didn't care about Dark Phoenix. They threw it under a bus promotionally. They didn't know what to do with Jojo Rabbit, another Fox Searchlight property. There was groaning in the screeners from Disney executives and whatnot. They were unsure on how to handle the movie. But they eventually, just because of Taika or whatnot and his standing in the company, they promoted that movie pretty well, if I can get my word correct. And I really enjoyed the trails and stuff. So that's sort of the exception to the rule. This is going more along the lines of Dark Phoenix. They've flung it under the bus. They've put it out in the theatres when we're in the midst of a pandemic, and you've already got Tenet out, Stephen. And look, I've already had a choice to make, and I ain't going to see this over Tenet.
No, definitely not. This reeks of the Rise of Skywalker as well, of studio interference, and just it's almost like they've went, this is a bad film. What's the best we can do to get this into some kind of standard? Yeah. Let's put it out a beige version. That's basically what they're doing. They're just playing it safe because I don't think they wanted to take any more risks with this film. Certainly, I think as well that if the Fox Disney merger didn't take place, Fox may have considered redoing this film as well. But I think they were too far along the line.
I think it would have been a solo.
Yeah,
at least 80%.
Yeah, that's a good example, John.
Rogue One.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is what it is at the end of the day. It's a bit of a cop out, but it's out now. It's out to the public to see now. I just think that the whole thing's been handled terribly from the very beginning. And it's going to. It makes you wonder how this is going to affect the director's career as well. Because he's linked with this film. If it's that bad.
Well, Trevorrow had the book of, what was it? The book of
Henry. Yeah.
I always want to say Eli, but it's not. That was a better movie. And that kind of dented his career for a couple of years, Stephen.
Yeah.
He lost the Star Wars gig because of it. Now he's started to get back on track with Dominion. There's no doubt in my mind. That was the excuse, probably. That and the fact that he had a thing for Luke Skywalker, and we all know that Kathleen Kennedy doesn't like Luke Skywalker. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Some would say. I'm saying it because it's true. So, yeah, I mean, it may very well hurt his career for the next couple of years, but
he's got the
stand coming out, and if that's a hit, then, and by all accounts, he's got a really good cast. Skarsgård, one of the Skarsgårds is in there.
Yeah.
And there's a few other really good names, big names in there. So, if that's a hit, then that's a more traditional horror type thing, isn't it? It's Stephen King horror, sort of post-apocalyptic setting. If that's a hit, then this may not dent him too much, because people will look who know their stuff, and I presume most people in the entertainment, Hollywood in general, industry, will know their stuff about movies. They'll understand Disney don't really care about it, don't really want to invest any more money in a Fox property. They only took over it for the legacy stuff, and they get their hands on some of the other good things, like TV side of things, so they could combine it, have Disney Plus, and then it's one less rival to worry about as well.
Yeah.
So they'll realise that this guy was shafted in a sense. He didn't get a chance to really hone it into his complete vision. It was the first draft of the movie. Every single movie pretty much now gets reshot.
I think most people know as well that sometimes directors don't have complete control over what is decided, that what is going out, to the public as well. David Ayer, the Suicide Squad as well. A lot of that was taken off his hands, but it's still going out as a David Ayer film, which I think's a bit unfair. But it's like a football manager, the sword's got to fall on someone, when things don't go right, and it's normally the one who's at the forefront as well. Not the boardroom members, i.e. the studio. It's always
Bohemian Rhapsody, in which case it's Bryan Singer's fault. And
that's self-inflicted, I think.
Yeah,
John.
It was. Yeah, it was a dodgy shit. But we'll not get into that, allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. But listen, we're going to move on anyway, because I don't think we've got much more to say. That we kind of covered New Mutants last week on the sort of first sort of review reactions anyway. I'll still go and see this film, John. It's not up high in my list. Tenet is the number one film to see at the moment, as far as I'm concerned. I will get to see the New Mutants. Perhaps we'll be doing a movie review on it very shortly as well. Who knows? But we'll move on to Christopher Nolan. Is excited for Robert Pattinson's Batman. Do you hear that? Batman. The Batman. As Tenet arrives in theatres, filmmaker Christopher Nolan has some words of praise for Robert Pattinson and his upcoming role as Batman in The Batman, surprisingly. And in a new interview via CNA's YouTube channel, the Singapore-based news network decided to bring up the topic. Nolan admitted that when Pattinson first learned he'd been taken over as the DC hero on the set of Tenet, a respectful silence was kept around the topic. But as time went on and Tenet's shoot was almost complete, conversations were had and jokes were made. Nolan spoke with Pattinson about the role and its physical aspects. He also admits that he was thrilled that Pattinson was cast and that he believes the 34-year-old will do an amazing job. It's always good to see, John, that you get a former filmmaker of a franchise taking an interest on sort of upcoming versions of what he's already created, and I'm pretty sure Tim Burton was the same, keeping an eye on Joel Schumacher stuff, Schumacher on Chris Nolan stuff. Pretty sure they did. But it's good to see. It's very funny to see as well, John, on set of Tenet, that they never really spoke about it at the very beginning. A respectful silence. You could see, and you can imagine the sort of glares they would have been giving each other, looks, as if, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to talk about it? No, let's get this film done. This is what we're here for, Robert, and then we'll talk about it. But
I think Robert Pattinson was probably too busy trying to wrap his head around the concept of Tenet.
Yeah, and
because it's very complicated by all accounts.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan said he certainly did not ask me for any advice. We kept a respectful silence around the issue till very near the end of the shoot. We said a couple of things and made a couple of jokes. We did have a little bit of a conversation about the various aspects of what he was going to be putting himself through, but I was thrilled that he was cast. I think that he'll do an amazing job, and I'm really excited to see what he does with that character. That's the most important part for everyone, I think. They're very interesting to see what Robert Pattinson's going to bring to the character, something different. By all accounts, from what I'm reading, John, he's kind of stayed away from Ben Affleck's version. He's staying away from Christian Bale's version, which is, you can go one way or the other, I suppose. You could either take inspiration from previous, or you can just shut yourself off for it and make it your own thing, and hope it works. He's a fantastic actor, John. I'm pretty sure he's going to really knock the ball out of the park with this role. And I don't think it's going to be a one-off either. I think we're going to see him obviously playing this role a few times. And from that very first trailer, or that teaser trailer we got last week, the signs are very good, aren't they?
They are, Stephen. And look, some people are whinging, I'm going to say, about Robert Pattinson being cast as the Batman, as Bruce Wayne. What, a year ago or something it was announced, was it?
Yeah,
I want to say
roughly about,
they were saying that, not that guy from Twilight, Jesus Christ, he's a crap actor. These guys have not been watching this chap's development.
No.
Throughout his career in the last 6-7 years, maybe further back than that again, actually. I'm going to say 5-6 years at least. He is going down the sort of Ryan Gosling route for me. He's been pigeonholed into a certain heartthrob, sort of manly, that sort of Twilight. He played Cedric, what the hell was it, Diggory in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
He was sort of typecast into that role. And now and almost Zac Efron as well. He's the same. He's broke out of it. He's now decided I want to do more varied roles. I want to go off and try my hand at different genres and stuff like that. Test myself. He's broke out of it, and he's shown that he's a real chameleon of an actor. He can do every genre. He can do drama really well. I loved him in The Lighthouse. I thought he was absolutely amazing with William Dafoe. It was an insane movie. Robert Eggers crafted. Took us down the path of insanity beautifully.
Yeah.
I've never dabbled with insanity, but if I do, I think it'll probably resemble what I watched in The Lighthouse.
Yeah. Keep away from seagulls.
Keep away from seagulls. Bad Omens. Two guys in the movie, Steve, and you can't get a better actor to bounce off of than William Dafoe. But William Dafoe really can't do it all on his own, and that was down to Bob Pattinson. And look, that sort of opened my eyes up. Is I'm not going to sit here and say I know every single movie the guy's done since 2010 or something like that, but I do know that he's opened the doors to new genres, and he's really flexed his muscles as an actor very, very recently. And that is just perfectly timed with him going into this Batman movie. And I can't agree more with Christopher Nolan. I'm really excited to see what the hell he's going to do with it. And I also think he will do an amazing job. I think he's a really good actor. And I'm liking what I'm hearing, in contrast to some other channels and other people in general, when he says, I don't have to be all muscle. I don't give a shit about the physique. That'll come in time. I'm getting my teeth into this character.
Yeah.
This is the sort of origins of my Bruce Wayne, my version of the Batman, and I want to focus more on the character, on my acting skills, and bouncing off of these other characters in the movie, these other actors, Zoe Kravitz, Jeffrey Wright and stuff like that. Develop some chemistry. That's what I want to see, man. For a trilogy of Batman movies, I don't care about his physique. He's big enough, he's 6 foot, they can add some muscle in like they did with Zachary Levi and Shazam.
Yeah.
Let the guy blossom as a character, then he can pack the muscle on as time goes on, he's not going to be Ben Affleck. He's
John,
just
as well, I think people may have a misconception of what this film is going to be like as well. I don't believe it's going to be all-out action. You did get a few action shots in that trailer, but it's going to be very detective heavy. So,
I hope so.
And the vibes that a lot of people are getting, it's got 7 vibes, which means it's going to have a psychological thriller. Is the sort of pigeonhole I'm going to put it into.
You don't bring the Riddler in and not make it psychological.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the sort of prototype. That's probably not the correct word, but the typical villain you go to. The Joker's like a step up again. He's a sort of puppet master. He teases from afar, cerebral. He doesn't like to get his hands dirty.
No.
He's not that kind of villain. The Riddler's almost more intelligent than the Joker, but he's not as sneaky, not as cunning. He has his weaknesses, and he can be got at, and he will be got at in this movie.
Yeah.
That's why you've got the Penguin. You've got a sort of villain, a gallery of villains. Carmine Falcone. He's going to have to put the pieces of the puzzle together, try and find who the hell's responsible for whatever's going on in this movie. I don't know what the story is. Vengeance seems to be a key theme. Put it all together, uses the sort of deductive powers as a great detective, which is getting back to the heart of the Batman character. He's not all muscles, he's not all beating the shit out of people. He is a sort of sleuth in the suit. He's got a great mind as well. And I can't think of a better actor to come in than do that deductive, sleuthy sort of detective side of things with a great mind than Robert Pattinson. And then maybe 2 movies down, maybe a movie down the road, he can put the muscle on if he has to. I don't think he needs to. I seen him in the trailer. I thought he looked fine.
He looked fine, man. I think for a beginning, if you like, of the story,
you don't have to have a fat man for every Batman.
Oh, exactly.
You don't. Ben Affleck looked ridiculous, Steve. I'm trying to put muscle
John,
on. That
was the next thing I was going to talk about. Was obviously Ben Affleck's Batman, and Christopher Nolan had more first-hand sort of inside knowledge on that sort of series of films because he was on as an executive producer, so he'd have been there as an advisor rather than what he's talking about here. He's going to just be like one of us guys, going as an audience member to enjoy it, and it's good to see that he's going to get that chance to go as an audience member rather than be involved in the sort of behind the scenes stuff that goes on in the studio, etc. But John, we'll move on to Ant-Man 3, reportedly targeting 2022 release date. Marvel Studios has yet to announce an official release date for Ant-Man 3, whatever it may be called at the time, but a new report suggests a 2022 debut for the MCU sequel really. Yahoo recently spoke to Peyton Reed, that is, about the 20th anniversary of his movie Bring It On. I can't believe that's 20 years old, by the way. But the interview has also included some discussion about Ant-Man 3. Buried at the end of the article, Yahoo states it's currently planned for a 2022 release. To be clear, Reed did not say this in the interview, but it's possible. The outlet has heard that this is a plan for Ant-Man 3. Marvel has so far not confirmed this news and given Ant-Man 3 an official release date. So the headline says it's reportedly targeting a 2022. John, I could have actually predicted that.
Yeah. Because
it is on the slate. But as we know, with this pandemic, things have had to be shifted around a little bit. Even more so now, Black Panther 2 leaving a slot there because we don't obviously know what's going to happen there. So there's going to be a wee bit more jiggling about, if you like, and juggling things around. So 2022 for Ant-Man 3, John, is it possible?
Steve, I think it is possible, yeah, certainly. If the story's there, if Peyton Reed has a story, general gist of a story, he doesn't have to have the complete script in his lap, ready to hand it over to Kevin Feige and Marvel and Disney. But if he has a general idea of the story, they can start shooting this movie. Depending on when it's coming out, 2022, it can be starting the shooting late next year. Be done in 4-5 months, maybe even less than that, 2-3 months. These movies are usually smaller productions, smaller scale than the rest of the MCU stuff. We've read articles before.
Yeah.
They gross the least amount of money of any other Marvel movie. They tend to be smaller scale, Stephen. Smaller villains, more street level, more humanistic. So it's not going to take a long time to shoot. It can come out.
Well, you've already
late
got
next
Thor,
year, 2022.
Well, it'd have to be because Thor: Love and Thunder was scheduled for early 2022, and then Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness was a few months later. I think that would be maybe the big summer release. So I think you're right. I think very much like Ant-Man and the Wasp here in the UK, which was delayed because of the Soccer World Cup. I think you're right. I think it'll be late 2022.
Yeah, I was just trying to get the calendar open to see how they were falling. The pieces in this Phase 4, and it traditionally is the sort of smaller release. I don't want to say that late slot's always a small release, because obviously last year we got Spider-Man Far From Home, and that ain't no small movie. Tom Holland, Peter Parker, that's bigger than Captain Marvel for me all day long. Some people would disagree because of her
Spider-Man.
Because of her being set up though, Stephen, as the big figure. It's going to come in. A lot of people were predicting she would come into Endgame and save the day, kill Thanos single-handedly. I was one of them. Thought she'd have a big part to play. She gets slapped away, man. She came in, destroyed his ship, sort of started the seeds of the beginning of the end of the movie. But
John, I always remember my words after we saw the first trailer. Captain Marvel says, I don't think she will bring the end to his reign, but she'll be at the forefront.
Yeah.
That's what I predicted. It's a team effort, you know.
Well, he did have his hands in the gauntlet, and I suppose she sort of stalled him enough to...
I'm looking forward to seeing Ant-Man 3, John, because I love the character Scott Lang, and I love obviously the supporting cast as well, you know, and the characters. It's just it really is an escapism type of a film. You know, the first one was fantastic. It kind of took me by surprise how well it was made, how well it was written, and well acted as well. At first I wasn't really sure about Paul Rudd. As much as I am a big fan of Paul Rudd in comedies, etc., I just wasn't sure how he would fit the role, but he's perfect for Scott Lang, you know, and I think they just get the right humour involved as well. You get Evangeline Lilly in there bouncing off him. I think the chemistry between the two of them is fantastic, very cutting at times. They're just it's like cruel humour between both of them, and then you add in Michael Douglas's Hank Pym as well, very similar father like daughter sort of kind of relationship towards Scott Lang. You know, I think they love him, but he annoys the hell out of them as well. And then you've got the sort of supporting cast of Scott Lang's
David Dastmalchian and Michael
Pena. It's just a great cast, you know. And even the little girl that played his daughter, I know obviously going forward she's not going to be there now, because obviously 5 years has happened since obviously the snap. Flashback. So could happen. I suppose it could work, but I'm looking forward to it. I can't get enough of these films. Very much like Doctor Strange 2, the Multiverse of Madness. I can't wait to see what's happening with these characters next.
Absolutely, Stephen. And look, there is going to be some major shuffling in the Phase 4 calendar, as you did say, just because of the sad passing of Chadwick Boseman, obviously the ripple effect that's going to have on Black Panther 2. We'll not get into this whole speculation. It's not the time and place for it. It's just happened, and it's still raw. But there is going to be some decisions to be made, and that's obviously going to have an impact on scheduling, when the next Black Panther movie is going to come out, where it's going to fall. It's going to have an impact on Guardians as well. Things are going to get shuffled about now, so I think it's highly likely it could come out 2022. I think they could start shooting middle to end of next year, get it in the can, get the post started, and it comes out late slot 2022. Not a problem for me.
It does say in this article that there is an Untitled film scheduled for October 2022, which hasn't been announced. Well, that's
titled.
But they've not got an official title for it yet, have they? But
that's one I'm looking forward to.
There is a slot there, that's what I'm trying to say. So it could be that maybe the Untitled thing can maybe wait if they really want to put out Ant-Man 3. But we'll move on, John, to our final topic, coming in from Screen Rant. This is Daisy Ridley. Hasn't got much work since Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. In an interview with EW, Entertainment Weekly, I think that's, Ridley explained she didn't have roles waiting at every corner the way someone a star of her status should. The actor said, weirdly, at the beginning of the year, nothing was coming through. I was like, oh, no one wants to employ me. Ridley went on to describe how she went on several auditions and got rejected for all of them.
She got an audition?
Luckily, the offer started up again in late February and early March. Around that time, Ridley was offered a major voice role in the adventure game 12 Minutes, available on Xbox and PC later this year. Ridley has other voice roles coming up as well, including Baba Yaga, an immersive film filled with big star names. She'll also provide her voice for a new Audible series called Islanders. Now, There's nothing wrong with voice acting, John, because another Star Wars actor, legendary actor, Mark Hamill, has made a second career of it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes it's seen as a sort of second-class trade in acting, and it shouldn't be, because I think sometimes it can be physically demanding because you have to put all your emphasis on delivering the right tone, the right voice, etc. When you don't have all your other senses around you for people to see and obviously hear. But Daisy Ridley, is this something you saw happening, John? Was this something? It seems to be a tradition with Star Wars for unknown actors coming into that franchise, not established ones. John Boyega, Attack on the Block, was it?
Yeah.
Then you had Oscar Isaacs
inside Llewyn Davis. He was more established. Adam Driver was kind of Giddles, I think it was. He was a name through that TV show. They were the more established names.
Whereas Daisy Ridley, this was her first feature film, The Force Awakens. I've got to say, I liked Daisy Ridley in The Force Awakens. I thought she was fantastic. I thought her chemistry with John Boyega was perfect. So the trilogy as a whole, I don't blame her for the way Rey was portrayed or anything like that. She did what she had to do, as all actors have to do. They do what they're told. They read a script and they're directed, and the story's got nothing to do with them. They've just got to play it out as it's written. But I did like her in The Force Awakens. I just thought she had that kind of chemistry and that humour that was missing from the prequels.
It was a tenderness as well, Stephen.
Yeah.
She was on her own, isolated.
You felt sorry for her, and I think she portrayed the role of Rey in that first episode perfectly, and I think we all felt for her. We all felt sorry for her, because she was abandoned there, which was established in that film.
I always remember the scene, Stephen, where she's taking the rations and cooking them. She sits outside with this sort of
that loneliness,
the X-wing helmet on. And it was a shame for her. I did feel for the character. She was on her own. She was pining for her family. Isolated figure. So, look, man, she was decent in that, but Stephen, much like Gal Gadot. I'm getting caught between pronunciations. Much like Gal Gadot. She hasn't quite developed as an actor enough for me. It's sort of stagnated. She was god-awful, man, in The Last Jedi. Let's be honest, she really was. Wooden. And it didn't get much better in Rise of Skywalker, despite her being the clear sort of front runner in the movie. Everything was about her. Again, for me, it's clear in that trilogy who is the better actors, and it's pretty much everyone other than Daisy Ridley. John Boyega, amazingly talented young guy, charismatic as hell, likeable as hell. I'm not saying Daisy's not; she is likeable. She's down to earth. Great connection with John Boyega. But in the acting scale, it's clearly Oscar Isaac, Adam Driver, neck and neck. Then it's John Boyega, and then Daisy Ridley's down here, of the sort of younger cast. That aside, it doesn't surprise me, Stephen, that she is struggling for work, because we've seen this with Mina Massoud as well, the guy who played Aladdin.
That's right, yeah.
In the remake, the live-action remake, he was struggling to get auditions as well. I read an article, I mind actually speaking about it on a show. He says that he couldn't get an audition via Disney or via any other studios after his work. It really surprised him. He thought that would catapult him to fame. That would give him an opportunity to become a sort of, even a working actor, not an A-list Brad Pitt level. Not many people get to that level.
No.
But just a decently paid actor. And he wasn't getting in the door for auditions. That's why I says when you were actually starting the topic, at least she's getting auditions. She's getting more than Mina Massoud got. And sometimes it's not a bad thing for an actor to come from a sequel trilogy of a big franchise like that. Take some breathing room, step back, do some voice acting roles. Sort of re-stabilise yourself and then go in and pick your choices or pick your movies correctly. Do what DiCaprio does. Take a step back and he produces his own movies as well. Terrible analogy, but a comparison, not really an analogy. But pick your movies correctly is what I'm saying, and it's not a bad thing. She's not jumped at the first movie straight out of Star Wars. Doesn't usually work very well. But that's not what Boyega's been doing. That's not what Isaac's been doing. They've been getting away and picking movies that they like. They're not rushing into it. He picked Detroit. He was great in Detroit. Isaac's doing all sorts of things, man, and he's just a great actor. He's in June. take a step back, re-establish yourself, and then make the correct decisions, and I'm sure it'll all work out well.
She was in Murder on the Express, wasn't she? But it was a very small role in comparison to what she had to take in. But I think because of the initial focus on the Ray character as well, most of the talk was all about this character and who was she, where did she come from, and where she's going to go as well, who is she related to. There was so much emphasis on the character and Daisy Ridley's performance, but there'd been an enormous pressure on her as well, to make sure there was a legacy there after the sequel trilogy had finished, John. Whether or not you like it or not, it's there now. She wasn't the worst thing in it. I think sometimes some of the dialogue as well didn't help. I remember J.J. Abrams went through her. I think it was maybe the first couple of weeks of filming The Force Awakens.
First sort of scenes.
Yeah, and he wasn't happy with her performances, but listen, it's her first big feature film. It's a big step into, any actor's sort of career to do a film like that, especially a film that was so anticipated as well. Episode 7, this is a continuation of the Skywalker saga, as they call it. So you can't really fault her for that. But John, she does have an upcoming project, Chaos Walking. She's co-starring with Tom Holland. The movie filmed principal photography a few years back, but it's currently awaiting a January 2021 release. Like most films at the moment, John, that are either midway through production, there's obviously a major delay and stuff like that. So it's very interesting to see that. It will be very interesting to see how she performs in that. But
Doug Lime's a good director. Stephen Edge of Tomorrow, Born Identity, he's done a lot of decent movies. So
I think as well, though, I think you touch on it. I think it's not a bad thing for any actor to step away or do something a little bit smaller. After The Matrix, Keanu Reeves stepped away and did a Scanner Darkly. That kind of thing works for actors. Do something different, like you said, John Boyega's doing, Oscar Isaac's doing as well.
Seen it with Harry Potter, Stephen?
Yeah.
Rupert Grint went off and done what was that movie called? I always forget it. The one with Bill Nye. Really good little movie. Can't think of the name just now.
Daniel Radcliffe as well went off and did
he done Broadway.
He did that horror film.
Women in Black.
Yeah,
A Lady in Black.
So something different, a different genre, And I think that's...
Felton also went in and done Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a bad thing for any actor, not just obviously Daisy Ridley, but I think when you're coming from that franchise as well, you're either going to go one way or the other. You're either going to have a stable career. There's not many people like Harrison Ford, they step out of that franchise, but Harrison Ford was an actor before Star Wars as well, you got to remember. Jake Lloyd, on the other hand, classic child actor syndrome, isn't it? That he's a victim of his own success.
Speaking of child actors, Stephen, Macaulay Culkin turned 40.
Yeah, I saw his tweet. Yeah,
40.
Yeah, but he's again, John, he's came through it, and 40. He seems to be in a better place than he was. I think he's more comfortable with himself as well, and obviously his legacy and that. He seems to be a good guy as well, John. From what I've seen, I actually have watched a few of his interviews and stuff on chat shows. Isn't he?
Band or something?
Yeah. I think that it's sort of themed. I think it's pizza themed or something. I can't remember. It's a strange thing where they do covers and they rename it's something pizza based or something like that. Pardon the pun. But back on topic. Daisy Ridley, I hope to see her obviously overcome this, whether it be in voice acting or not, it doesn't really matter, because they're still performing the art and, get the paycheck at the end of the day. That's the most important thing to some of them. And we'll just have to see. But, Mark Hamill was the same. Mark Hamill was in the big red one. I think he did it either before or just after Empire Strikes Back.
Movie as well in the 90s.
Yeah, Slipstream, yeah. So, it's science fiction again, but some of them just have to accept who they are going to be forever. I think Carrie Fisher actually said, "You're Luke Skywalker and I'm Princess Leia. Just get over it, Mark. Just basically accept that's your legacy, and you'll be fine if you accept it,
That's okay if your legacy's Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, but if it is Rey, who is probably one of the most hated characters in cinema history from certain sections of society, I personally don't care about her. I think that's maybe even more damning, and it's maybe a little bit harder to live with that legacy of being that sort of that actor. But look, it is what it is. She's Daisy Ridley. She's going to have to live with it. She is that actor. That's life, So get on with it, get out there and work, and that's it really. Essentially, I'm done. So we're going to round up the show on that note, guys. Before I go off a cliff, what is your thoughts on the array of topics we spoke about? Also starting off in a slightly sadder tone, speaking about the late, great, even though it sounds strange saying that, Chadwick Boseman. Speaking about the man's legacy, what he's accomplished, obviously, in his life and stuff like that. Just the sad passing of the man. And then also we moved on and spoke about an array of other topics, the New Mutants and stuff like that. Also Christopher Nolan speaking about the Batman, Robert Pattinson, Ant-Man 3, potential 2022 release date. And then finally, Daisy Ridley speaking about our woes post-Star Wars. So if you've got anything to say about any of those topics, you can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to see us continue talking about movie news from Monday through Thursday, movie reviews on a Friday, and reaction videos if and when they drop and tickle your fancy. And if you do, guys, you'll see us tomorrow back for another episode of Movie News. Bye bye.